what reach does he have? And she said, he's the only non-Trump family member that Trump follows on Twitter at the time.
Yeah, you told me. Keep going. You told me the story. Okay.
So I said, okay. Did she get to be the deputy CIA director? Something should have gone to me, right? So he sent word to the White House that he would filibuster her appointment. And so the president did something that was just so smart. He named her deputy national security advisor, which is a way more important job because the CIA director reports to the national security advisor.
Right.
So now her title is deputy national security advisor, I think for counter... No, it's not for counterterrorism because that's Seb Gorka, who I have serious problems with.
Would you care to elaborate?
Oh, my God.
Does anyone not have a problem with that guy?
I have a personal problem and I have a professional problem.
Well, I'm your psychiatrist. Shoot, John.
Well, the professional problem is that he wears his father's Nazi party lapel pin.
I've seen that.
He's not a neo-Nazi. He's an actual Nazi from Nazi Hungary.
Hard to deny that when you're wearing that.
Also, the children of Hungarian Nazis use the letter L as a middle initial. They have two middle initials. They're given middle initial and they put the letter L. And when he signs documents, he adds the L, which is fucked up.
That's crazy.
So are you a Nazi or are you an American? Right? It bothers me very much. We shouldn't have... In fact, he was only on the National Security Council for 30 days in the first term because the FBI is like, the guy's a Nazi. We can't give him a security clearance, and you can't have the job of, what was it, Deputy National Security Advisor or Senior Director for Counterterrorism and not have a security clearance. So they got rid of him. Well, now he's back. And Trump has ordered that the FBI give him a security clearance. Okay, number one. Number two, I was trying to get a pardon from Trump in the first term. And I hired a Republican lobbyist to help me. She calls me one day and she says, Seb Gorka is coming out with a book and there's a party at the Trump Hotel and we're going to have dinner at his house afterwards. So she says, I want you to come. And I said, but why would I ask Sebastian Gorka to help me?
Yeah.
Like what reach does he have? And she said, he's the only non-Trump family member that Trump follows on Twitter at the time.
Yeah, you told me. Keep going. You told me the story. Okay.
So I said, okay. She says, we want him to tweet at the president, pardon John Kiriakou. And then she says, bring your checkbook. And I said, oh, it's going to be one of those nights. And she said, yeah, he's going to ask you for $2,000. And I said, all right. I said, I've been in Washington long enough.
I'll pay that.
Yeah, I know how the game is played.
Yeah.
I'll give him $2,000 to tweet.
Cheap date.
So I go to Trump, and he's, handing out his book, whatever it was. I don't even remember. And everybody, like every elected Republican in Washington is there. It was kind of a big deal. And so she takes me up to him. She says, Seb, this is John Kiriakou. I told you about him. And he says, with that British accent, I want to smack right out of his face.
Yeah.
So you're the chap who wants me to tweet. And I said, if you're so inclined. And he says, well, you're coming to dinner tonight? And I said, yes. We'll see you at your house. We'll go to the house afterwards. And he pulls me aside and he says, so you want me to tweet what? Pardon John Kiriakou? And I said, yes. And he says, give me $5,000. I said, $5,000 for a tweet. And he said, yeah, give me $5,000. I said, I've been in Washington for 40 years. And I'm not a babe in the woods. I know how it's played. But I'm not going to be shaken down by you or by anybody else. And I walked out.
Good for you. I like those stories.
I don't have any respect for the guy at all. And
Yeah.
I honestly, I
I
have
don't know
no
anyone
idea
who
what
does.
Trump sees in him.
I also, when I hear stuff like that, it so confuses me because the guy wears the Nazi lapel type pin.
Yeah.
You're telling me he signs his name with I'm unaware of that symbolism, but I believe you. And he loves Trump, who's buddies with Israel.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
We've never in our history had a more pro-Israel president. And then just a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was more than a couple, maybe it was a month ago, just before the inauguration, he made this big announcement that I am a Zionist, he said. It's like,
Seb did?
Yeah, but you're wearing a Nazi party lapel pin.
People are confused these days, John.
I don't
They don't know what a
understand this
gender
at
is
all.
anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that's true too.
He's political fluid.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all
There
right.
will be a lot of that.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that. But the thing that we're looking at with some of these people that Trump's putting in is like the transparency angle, which we're laying out some of the issues that could happen there with someone like Gabbard. But then there's also these pop culture and also national security related type things that people are concerned about. There's two things I want to hit on here because I am cynical about both of them. And if you can correct that, I would love that. First one is the JFK thing.
Yeah.
So they're saying Trump so far is keeping his promise
Yes.
on that. And he's saying he's ordering the release.
Yes.
He said last time, and I've seen Pompeo talked about this, he said Mike Pompeo is the one who stopped it because
Correct.
like names and addresses or something like that. But I actually cynically, unfortunately, agree with the people like Andy Bustamante who say even if they were involved, those documents would have been destroyed right after it happened or never created. And so we're not really going to find out
Most
anything.
likely.
Is that that's what you think?
I think Andy's correct. We're talking about, well, let's back up. Congress passed a law in 1992 mandating the release of documents having to do with the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, and the Martin Luther King assassination.
That's right.
1992. And every year, the CIA whispers in the president's ear and says, sources and methods.
National security.
National security, 9/11. You can't release it. And president after president after president blocks the release. So many of us were very hopeful in Trump's first term that it would finally come out. Now it's going to come out. He's serious this time. He made the final decision. It's coming out. And I think it's like they have 30 days to release the JFK and 60 days for the RFK and the MLK. I was talking to a guy at the National Security Archive, which is at George Washington University, and they're the ones that usually take custody of these declassified documents. It's a hub for people working on PhDs or for journalists working on stories where they need access to original CIA documents.
Sure.
So I said to him the other day, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to make an educated guess. And I'm going to guess that these documents are going to be either documents that have already been released but were more heavily redacted in the past. They're going to be less redacted this time. And they're probably going to be about CIA surveillance activities in Mexico City in October and November of 1963. And he said, I think that's exactly what it's going to be. It's not going to be a smoking gun. It's not going to tell us who killed Kennedy. It may be moderately interesting to a handful of PhDs who have followed this stuff for years, but we're not going to learn anything new from these documents. I'm a little bit more hopeful about RFK and MLK. I'm glad you said I'm glad you used the word optics because it's important in this case. A friend of mine posted on Facebook the other day